the government has made several interventions, you know, to alleviate that situation. It was brought about as a result of some distributors and wholesalers of the commodity clamoring for an increase in the price. The government has been attempting to subsidize. What that means is that the government will pay importers of the commodity a certain amount of money so that the price can be low, so that Liberians don't have to pay more money for rice. So that has been the case. There's been varying debates about whether or not that is sustainable. In other words, whether the government can continue it over the long term, considering that we're going to be paying millions of dollars. But the president is, considering the plight of ordinary people, specifically poor people who he thinks might not be able to afford the price of the commodity if it were to be increased. So he wants the government to subsidize that. Now, what that has led to, some other people have been taking the commodity out of the country to neighboring countries where it is sold at really, really high price. So Liberia in the region sells rice at really low, if not the only country that sells rice at 13.50 dollars per 25 kg rice. We're going to be talking about that during the course of the show. We know that a vessel came in. More vessels coming in will be berthed at the port of Monrovia, and that should serve to alleviate the problem we are faced with. We're also going to be talking about the fact that Liberia's finance minister, at the World Bank annual spring meeting, was one of, if not the only country from Africa, was seated on a panel discussing education, and its impact, the nexus between education and development. So that's exactly what they were developing, and as everybody knows who's Samuel Tuere, he's intellectual par excellence. He was seated on the panel with the World Bank's president and other academics from around the world. He was the fact that you have your only, African seated on a panel was a Liberian from Monroe. They say the prophet not respected.
Yep.
Minister Tuere was placed on that panel, and he was talking about some of the interventions Liberia has been making as far as human development is concerned. Human development has several indicators. You got to invest in education, health, and what have you. He was talking about some of those measures that the government is taking. During the course of the conversation, we're also going to be talking about the fact that the political leader of the Unity Party was sort of attempting to put a dent on some of the hard work that have been done by the government of the Republic of Liberia under His Excellency President Weah. He's doing a lot as far as road development is concerned, but the Unity Party's tender bearer sought to impute that he can do better, to the extent that he says in the first 100 days there's going to be no vehicle that will be stuck in the mud. So in other words, he says he's going to face all the roads in 100 days, all the roads in the Republic of Liberia, because that means nobody's going to be stuck in the mud anymore. So there's going to be no problem. Probably all the roads going to be paved in 100 days. Are you kidding me? Anyway, that's a conversation to be had during the course of this show today. We're also going to be talking about the fact that, Ben Ayure, the ALP political leader, was talking about how, President Weah needs to ensure free, fair elections. We've had several of them. He also talked about the fact that the president is playing football with Liberians, the president exercises. We're going to talk about that more during the course of the show. So a number of things to talk about on this program. You can't afford to miss today's edition of the show. Plus the fact that Liberia is going to be signing up to the CLSG line, the Transco CLSG, which is Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea power transmission line that should be coming in from the Ivory Coast. There's been a lot of talk about that how it's going to alleviate the cost of electricity, but also make it more stable. The government had a major stakeholder meeting, following last dry season when we had this power sharing that a lot of people were complaining about. So the government, we are convening a major stakeholder meeting of stakeholders in the energy sector, and all of the different ideas were brought forth, and they decided that Liberia going to hook up to the CLSG line, so that what happened during last dry season cannot happen this dry season. But there are other interventions, in fact, a lot of other interventions that are being made that we will talk about during the course of this conversation. My name is Barker M. Fofana. I am the Deputy Minister for Technical Services at the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs, and Tourism. Hopefully, anyway, when they come, we're going to announce them. If they don't, well, that's it. You're listening to MICAT. Welcome back to MICAT Hour. So let's begin with this whole rice situation. We know that about 23,000 metric tons of rice have come in the country. We want to, particularly say thanks to the different importers of the commodity in Liberia that government has been prevailing on to ensure that there is a regular supply of the commodity. We're talking about Fwani bread, swat, and what have you. Ever since President Weah assumed the mantle of authority in 2018, one of his first order of business was to hold a meeting with rice importers. He held that meeting. I remember it was at his home. There were various pictorials of that came out with the rice importers. At the time, rice was sold about $16 to $17. He prevailed on them to drop the price. They agreed, so the price was a little lower. And then during the COVID crisis, the rice importers were clamoring for the government to subsidize the cost of freight. In other words, how much it took for them to bring the rice from the suppliers to the Liberian market on the different ships and what have you. The different ship that is how it's going to cost them, and relative to the price they're going to be charging Liberians in the country and all of that. So the government began partially subsidizing. What that means is that the government started giving them some money and say, well, we will, give you this so that you can, subsidize, pay for some of the costs you have to pay, so that you can bring the rice in the country and sell it cheaper, And so that worked up until a certain point when a few of them started saying, oh, but rice in Ghana, Guinea, and other places, for higher price, $25, $30, and what have you. Why do we have to sell at $13.5 or $14 for that matter? So a few of them started to take, and besides that, the government is also, not charging much of a duty. In fact, I don't think that it's a duty-free process at the port of Monrovia. Yeah. Just so the rice price. That's because President Weah initiated this. And there was also a time that he took away this whole import permit declaration, where the importation of rice was the exclusive preserve of a few. The president took away that privilege and allowed it, liberalized the process, opened up the market, to allow different importers to bring in rice in the country. Because it shows the kind of intention that the president had to ensure that we had rice in surplus, on the market. Seems as if there are some importers who weren't satisfied, but I think this process is from mainly the distributors, Daniel.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, the problem was mainly apparently from the distributors, some of the distributors that we are hearing weren't so satisfied with the cost because they think they can have more profit. So if you think you're making $1 or $2 profit in Monrovia and you can get $5 or $6 profit in neighboring country, so they are, what they thought was safe to do is maybe let me go across the border, and so as a result, our own stock in the country became depleted, and so those were some of the problems. Plus, there was another issue that had to do with the regularity of big ship at the port of Monrovia because there was dredging going on. So ship within a certain meter could not berth at the port of Monrovia. I want to say APM Terminal is working now with some of the different owners of vessels to bring them in temporarily while, because of this particular crisis. But, otherwise, that had been a crisis.
Yeah, thank you, Baka. The issue of rice in Liberia has always been something at its epic. And like you rightly said, when the president took office, this was one of the first things that he challenged. Imagine had there not been a form of arrangement between the importers, which of course obviously consummates down to the dealers. There would have been a political imbalance situation in our country. But notwithstanding that, the president has also been able to continuously work with different facets of business people across our country to ensure that this commodity, remains. Even though you see the scarcity that occurred very recently, I have a colleague who lives just neighboring Sierra Leone,
Okay.
and he was telling me that the price of a 25 kg bag of rice now in Sierra Leone is up to 50 United States dollars if you're doing a conversion in leons.
Wow.
Okay, so it tells you it's 50 United States dollars in leons, 500,000 leons. You just imagine that, all right? So he was saying to me, he said, but do you know you people are way okay, even to the point your scarcity, occur, but yet the rice can't even reach up to 45 or even $40. So black guy, the issue of rice has become a political day-to-day thing.
Yeah.
Now, oppositions and other, anti, or government stooges are using this as a means to tear the good works that has been made by the government. You heard recently that lawmaker Yeke Kolova left his district and has been on a road tour in 3 counties, purportedly Margibi, Bong, and Nima,
Okay.
under the pretext of rallying people to move against the government of Liberia on the basis of the fact that government is denying them their staple food, rice, which is not true. Like you rightly said.
Let me just clarify something here, because I'm getting from an authoritative source here that's telling me instead of $13.50, rice should be sold at $13.
Yes.
This is from an authoritative source. The person is saying, they work in the sector.
Yeah.
Say that's what the government has said, $13.
But Baka, do you know what that means? Like I was saying, do you know what that means? In Nigeria, the Mama Gold bag, 25 kg bag of rice, the Ofada rice in Nigeria is sold at 35 United States dollars, which is between 12,000 leons, 12,000 naira to 20,000 naira in between there. You look at that. But we find it. So you see, and these people, these are economists that also grow their local rice.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And their local rice is also at the same level of the imported rice. We need to be balanced and fair in some of the things that we do as it comes to, this issue of rice in our country.
Yeah.
Okay? In as much as government is doing all she can do to ensure that we arrest this situation once and for all, but as Liberians, we cannot be overly dependent on the fact that this will always be available to us at a time we need. We need to also promote, in 1970, after the demise of President William V.S. Tubman, when President William R. Tubman took office, during his first State of the Nation address, Tubman said to the Liberian people, he said, it is now the time for Liberians to move away from the concentrates of the extractive industry and let us focus our attention into the Green Revolution. He said, by doing this, we will be saving for our future generation. Okay?
Yeah.
So if we are taking cue, now, the political leader today who said that he can do 100 days of the road was the head of Liberia Produce Marketing Corporation at a point in time. There was not much work done around encouraging Liberians to eat what they grow and promote what they have. So this government has been doing all she can do to, what crisis would have occurred if we never had a good connection in terms of the subsidy we're providing to these importers. This would have been a problem today, Baka.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, firstly, I just wanted to emphasize the clarification that I made earlier about $13. Actually, it should be $13 for the price of a 25 kg bag of rice.
Yeah.
That is what the government has allowed. I think there are some discussions about, whether or not that the ceiling is going to be elastic or not. Those are some of the conversations that have been had. But we had a vessel that came in with about 23,000 metric tons of rice. A lot of different estimates put that at between 900,000 bags to about 1 million bags.
Yes.
And we are beginning to hear that there's going to be additional vessels, several of them, coming in between the 21st. I mean, since this one came in, and in a couple of days' time, there's going to be additional vessels coming in with a lot of different stock of the commodity, and that should be able to take us way into next year. So this is the actual price that rice is sold for. We're talking $13. So a lot of different people wanted to exploit the situation, drawing parallels between the situation right now and what happened in 1979 and what have you. Last week I attempted to talk about the difference, and they are completely different. The scenarios are completely different. In 1979, it was the government of Liberia under President William Arrow Talbot and his agriculture minister at the time, I think it was Florence Chinoway,
yes,
that attempted, they made a suggestion to increase the price of the staple because it was imported at the time. They were increasing the price. I think it was intended to subsidize the farmers here so that people would turn to more local
grown rice,
grown rice and all of that. But then, some of the politicians at the time called the progressives, exploited the situation and started to rile up the population, saying, well, this is going to benefit the ruling elite and what have you. They have planned a protest. Initially, they called it peaceful, and then it turned really, really rowdy, if not violent, in fact. There were looting, there were raping, there were a lot of different things that happened. The difference with that time and now is that it is this government, under President Weah, that is attempting to keep the price low. So the government is not proposing an increase in the price.
No.
The government is attempting to keep the price low. It is the importers that are clamoring for an increase in the price. So you see the difference?
Yeah, big difference.
A big difference. So the government is saying, under President Weah, the government is saying, no, my people can afford. Let's keep the price at $13 and XYZ. The importers saying, no, if you can't carry the price up, someone decided saying, okay, we'll hold the commodity. They didn't say it, obviously, but they decided to do that.
Yeah.
They started hurting the commodity, making it scarce on the market, and then definitely, because it was scarce, obviously, the price went up. And someone decided to take it across the border where they could get more profit and all of that. So the difference in the two situations is that one person cared so much about the population that he was prepared to put, his neck on the line for that and say, well, we're not going to carry the price up. The other person was saying, well, let's carry the price up because we need to incentivize local farmers and what have you. Anyway, so those are the different scenarios. And that's why you see a lot of people, Liberian people aren't as gullible as you think. So the different politicians were out there attempting to tell the people, oh, you see, the people care about you, they carry rice price, oh, look how happened in 1979, this and that. The people didn't oblige, they didn't listen, they didn't heed. That's because they understand fully. They know what was happening. That's one thing, but also the very people that were depending on the protests and whatever are people who elected, who it is their leadership that is in authority. So even though we had the likes of the rebel rouser and agitator of a lawmaker out there in the street rallying up people in different counties and what have you, he was basically made a laughing stock. People didn't really pay heed.
Parker, thank you. I like the historical context that you brought into this whole rice rigmarole, especially from the political understanding. Now, 1979, April 14, the bulk of the young Liberians then, had a painted mentality of an administration that they believe were the oppressors.
Yeah.
Okay? So they believed then that administration was comprised of their oppressors. Okay? So oppression in the context that those people leading them at the point in time were not a representation of what they expected. Take for example, Dr. Tokpa Nanti Pote who argued that it is not logical for any ordinary Liberian at a point in time to wear coat suits, to wear the fancy ties, and any Western. But today, look at the difference. The minds of the young Liberians today, or those that elected President Weah, has never been painted by any form of segregation. Okay? So if you go out there and try to bring them out against the government, even to the point where this lawmaker said to the people that they are keeping the rights for campaign, which was a malicious lie.
Yeah.
Okay, and nobody gave heed. Now, no matter how volatile our political situation may be, but Liberians today are not prepared to put themselves against an administration that they elected. Look, they may not like all of the ministers and
But
official
also
government,
the
but the
fact is
president
that
is a different ballgame.
it's
brother.
a pro-poor administration. In other words, it's an administration that is a representation of ordinary poor people. They look in the government, they see themselves reflected. One of the things that can sort of turn people off if they want to join an organization is that if they look within the organization, they don't see themselves reflected. They see a group of elites. If a group of women that is want to join an organization, they must see a set of women there. A group of young people want to join an organization, they must see a set of young people. If a group of downtrodden people want to join an organization, they must see themselves represented, and that is exactly what's happening with the WEA administration. You see the likes of Sekou Kalasco, the likes of people from slum communities.
But call my name, even me here.
The likes of
we came from the Bantustans. I mean, we
Daniel Newstom,
Yes.
not the regular names,
course.
not those people who were accustomed to.
we didn't come from a bourgeoisie.
So when I look at it, I say,
no.
but our own people there and this and that, and we understand that the president is trying to do this. Maybe there might be some glitch in the system, but he's gonna fix it. We will be talking to Musa Kone. Musa is a dedicated, somebody who's dedicated to improving agro businesses in the country. So we'll be talking to Musa Kone. He's going to be talking about the data collection, of migrant cocoa farmers in the southeast of Liberia. We're also going to be talking about the launch of the new cocoa and coffee, policy and season. Plus, a 7 days study tour that he's going to be having in the Ivory Coast. So those are the issues we'll be talking to Musa Kone about in the next 15 minutes. But we've just been joined by, I didn't want to announce a name earlier because he told me he would be coming. But because he's a busy man, some of the times he can get, other things can override his presence here. But today he took up the time to be here with us. I'm talking about Musa.
Well, man, you Musa, man, looking at you. You didn't dream of Musa.
Musa, I was just talking before I came to the studio. I'm talking about Sekou Kalasco Damaro.
Maru.
Sekou, good morning.
Good morning, Baka, and good morning, Dana.
Good morning, Sekou.
It's always good being here.
Yeah.
Especially to talk about what we love best.
Yeah.
Talking about the good image of the country and talking about what President we are in the CDC-led government is doing to protect the interests of the states and the people. So it's good being here and driving, coming and listening to some of the things we're going to be talking about. And you started talking about the rest situation, which I think is...
What are your thoughts?
Well, which I think is good, and I just like to cut it very short, Baka. Anybody or any leader that is not in the interest of the people will not take some of the decisions the president has taken over the period of time.
Yeah.
True.
When you want to corrupt your people, you will not take the decision George Weah is taking to say, okay, to mitigate this situation of rice in our country while we're looking at the greater picture, in the future. But the government will create a subsidy for rest and say, okay, I will not only put the bread on the people themselves, the government, which of course is the people also, will take some responsibility.
Yeah.
That money that the government over the period of time, over 5 years, almost $60-70 million that the government is investing into subsidy. The president could have said, okay, instead of us taking that money to do something, let's take it and put it in our pocket, or take it and do something else with it.
Yeah.
But the government, the transparency level in this government, that's the reason why you see all of those international partners, the IMF, the World Bank, the European Union and other people are giving free ride to the government.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Based on what the transparency level that this government is associated with. Because
it's an open book.
It's an open book,
Yeah.
no secret.
No secret.
No government that will want to corrupt the citizen will say, okay, they will create subsidy and take money and give it to rest leader and say, okay, keep the price of rice at this level.
Yeah.
If you're not in your people interest, you'll do that.
You're not doing it.
You're not doing it. Let's go to simple English, guy.
Yeah.
If you're not in your people interest,
Just in the last couple of weeks alone, the government has given up to $14 million.
$14 million in
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're not in your people interest, my people, nobody will lie to you. You can't do it.
Yeah.
You rather take that money and put it in people's pocket, or take it and do something
else.
Something else with it.
Right.
But the president is saying, no, I will not do that to my people.
Yeah.
I was elected on a very popular mandate, and that mandate got to be held at a high esteem.
So in other words, the alternative could be he let the price, the different forces of supply and demand, the different the different suppliers, will determine the cost of the commodity on the market and what have you. That's an alternative. And some of the economists are proposing where this is going to be better and what have you. It's going to ensure that the commodity is affordable, but it's also available, which is essential on the market and all of that, because some of the people are not going to be hoarding. That is a legitimate counter-argument, but you cannot dismiss what the president has been intending to do. The president's intentions are well-meaning, because firstly, he came on a pro-poor mantra. He was elected by poor people. A lot of them believe in him. They knew that he was going to seek their plight, and one of the first things he sought to do was to say, the meeting that people can eat rice, let's keep the price low. So he said, well, the government will intervene by spending X, Y, and Z. Now, a lot of different arguments emerging about whether that is sustainable. What, in other words, saying, can we keep it that way and all the stuff.
To cut everything short,
Yeah.
To cut everything short,
Yeah.
President Weah and his team, this team are embedded with some of the best economists.
Yeah.
If any decision supposed to be taken,
That team will take it.
that team will definitely, because imagine 5 years, going to 6 years,
Yeah.
the government has sustained the issue of subsidy. The government, President Weah and his team, President Weah came up with that decision, said, okay, let's do this. And the team went into it and look at everything, look at all of the variables. And said, okay, we will do it. Because when we do it, I think we can sustain it.
Yeah.
The issue of the artificial situation that were created recently, based on some of the things you're talking about. People say, okay, the price of rice in Ivory Coast is this, the price of rice in Guinea is there, in Sierra Leone. So rather than us setting it here,
let's take it.
Even though the government is creating subsidy for us
and duty-free,
imagine, and we need to talk about these things. These are things that people know about.
A lot of money government pushing away.
The government duty-free. Aside from the duty-free, the government is also creating a subsidy for the people. Now, they say, okay, since the government is doing all they want, let's use the government as a scapegoat. They come here.
So bring it here, we'll take it.
Take it and carry a different place. You saw a couple of arrests being made in recent period. Couple of arrests. We can't automatically say we will stop the people from transporting because of the ECOWAS free trade agreement. We can't stop them. But in terms of crisis,
but the thing is, if you will benefit from our import-free duties, and you can't take it out of the country.
You can't take it out because
you got to pay our duty.
Of course, you got to pay the duty.
Yeah.
Since you're benefiting from the import-free, you're not paying anything on the rest.
Yeah.
But when you bring it, instead of you selling it to the people, you're taking it and carrying it to other places.
Yeah.
Well, we can't stop you, but you must pay the government duty on the necessary things you're supposed to do to solve the situation. You got to do it. So that's what the government is doing. So I listen to me. I'm not an economist, so I don't want to delve into that aspect. But the bottom line here is
the intention of the president.
The intention of the president is well
Yeah.
So we can go and be saying, okay, at this 11 hour,
some other people want us to happen because they're considering the political ramification for themselves.
Political ramification.
They say, oh yeah, let's exploit this because politically it's going to give us advantage.
Exactly.
Once the price of rent go, then we'll get used to an election issue.
Exactly. but forgetting to know that there's been more advantage for the impetus under this administration as compared to the past. A lot of people will say, why people like to dwell on the past? It's important. Past administrations will leave you historical notes that you have to read as you move forward. Had the president not read and recognized the notes of yesterday, he wouldn't have been able to put into place some of these things today. You see, you have to be in a position to understand, like what Sekou said, the challenges of the ordinary people before you can be able to solve it. So bulk of the quote-unquote politicians around here has never been a part of these very ordinary people.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they don't definitely know exactly what the people go through.
Just before we go to Musa, I want us to introduce one other subject matter because it's going to lead us into the whole government intervention in the agriculture sector and whatever. Then we can smoothly, we can smooth over to Musa. So the former vice president was out there this week, because firstly there's been a lot of different conversation about that he was probably inactive. He was sitting out there while Cummings was out maneuvering their camp and what have you. And so he and his team, they've decided, well, we're going to get out there too and start doing a lot of things. So, they've been in the different communities and what have you, even though it's been a struggle because these different campaigns, ventures, outings can be grueling, physically, demanding physically, mentally. And we all know that the former VP isn't in the best of, firstly, there's age and all of that. So it can be a little taxing on him, but he's been attempting to go out there, and one of the key attempt now is to the strategy that is now is to poke the current giant of Liberia's politics. We all know they call him the country giant.
Yes.
So Cummings attempted that earlier. He kept poking the giant until the giant responded. Beating him back in his hood, and it was so humiliating for him. They had to come out with another response to the president's response and all of that, hoping that the president would have responded. The president didn't mind. So the other people now saying, well, let's poke the giant too so we can get attention to ourselves. So they've been all out there. In one of the districts, started to call the president names and what have you. He didn't pay attention. It was in that district, by the way, that Joseph Baga first said he's going to turn things around in 3 years. He said, the country problem will turn around in 3 years. We didn't pay attention. He went to Mangibi this time around. He reduced the timing. The first time he said in 3 years. He went to Mangibi, he reduced the timing. He said, I will make sure that no vehicle in the Republic of Liberia will be stuck in any mud in 100 days. 100 days is approximately a little over 3 months. So what the vice president is saying, that there's been the former vice president, that there's been various estimates about the number of kilometers of roads in the country. I think some of the estimates put it at as high as 11,000 kilometers, that haven't been paved for more than 2 centuries of the country's existence.
Yep.
In the last 4 years, the president attempted to fix several hundreds of kilometers, upwards of 400, 500, 600 kilometers, including neighborhood roads, highway roads, and all the different stuff. Even that has been a struggle, even though the government is dedicating a significant portion of its resource envelope to that process. There's been an increase, generally year after year in the public sector investment project allocations in the national budget. So that's how you see in the different roles and what have you fixed. The former vice president, who had, under their leadership, they had a windfall of opportunities. All the different goodwill came, what have you, didn't utilize it. He himself admitted to squandering the opportunities.
And you say it was a uka.
Yeah, and he is the one now telling us that all the different challenges, the 11,000 kilometers of roads apparently will be paved in more than a little over 3 months. They will be paved. Because, if you say the car will not be stuck in the mud, you essentially telling us that all the different roads will be paved. How disingenuous, how deceptive for any leader, who's opting for the presidency, to think that the Liberian people are, that gullible, to think so lowly of the population is quite sad. This tells you what mindset the former vice president has, how he thinks of ordinary people, that anything he throws out, they're going to buy it. You know, for anybody to say that I will fix this country into, not even President Obama or the U.S. presidents, you know, can make such claims. So it leaves us wondering, what was he thinking?
Okay.
This is quite sad, gentlemen.
So, Bwaka, thank you. I'd like to start by saying perhaps maybe Omen Bwaka is a magician. It is only in alchemy that these things are possible. But to not waste time, the Omen is very indecisive. I'll tell you why. He has been very, very much aware of the division within even the Unity Party. And then they consummated an arrangement called the CPP. He also saw the disintegration of the very CPP as an elder were all making decisions. He sat there and saw Yuri taking Cummings to court on the issue of the finger of the framework document. Didn't you see that?
Yeah, yeah.
He also sat there and saw the Liberty Party that was a founding member of that so-called collaboration of political parties. So it just tells you clearly that here's a man who, if you read the classics of George Orwell, The Animal Farm, when the animals got together and said that it was too much, man was running their life, they were providing the milk, providing the eggs, providing security, and man was just taking everything and they were doing the hard work. They needed to get rid of man. When they succeeded in getting rid of man, now they took over the responsibility of the farm. What did they do? The same animals decided to create division among themselves. One animal said that they are more equal than the other animal. And at the end, there was serious division and war between them. Why am I using this analogy in this case? A man who says to you that he can complete the barrels in 100 days has not considered several facets in terms of this. So is he saying to us that, first of all, even consummating the arrangements that is going to even bring the funds, that has not been considered. Even moving logistics in those different areas. They're not just one small road you're going to do.
Yeah.
There are several roads across the country.
No,
He has not considered that. Even the human resource capital required, he has not even galvanized that. You see, when people decide to dream, it is better you dream your dream in your sleep, and when you wake up, you leave it there. But to come outside with your dream and think that it is a realistic picture that people see, it's just like a mockery. It's just like a friend Cummings.
I know.
Okay? These people are a bunch of dreamers. You know, we thought the Bible was joking when they say Joseph the dreamer. I've come to realize now that
Joseph the dreamer.
So you see, so I've come to realize that indeed the issue of dreaming,
yeah,
it has come down.
It started way back.
Yeah.
It started way back.
See, can you imagine?
Daniel, to be honest, and like I always talk about fantasy, they say somebody is 77-year-old woman.
Yeah.
77-year-old. If you take 40 years out of Bwaka's 77 years, he spent those 40 years in government. His hometown was Songa. He could not build a single decent home.
You know, we got to get the thing right. I want us to find out how old is Joseph. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
He could not build a single decent home in Wasonga, in a hometown. Imagine, out of 40 years in government, the Ome could not build a single decent home in Wasonga, in a hometown. Why? The Ome lived in rehab community. Every day as vice president, 12 years, he lived in rehab. And as vice president, they got budgetary allocations for your office.
Yep.
Take, for instance, the current vice president of Liberia, Madam Joel Howard Taylor, lives Sophie.
See that road?
Sophie.
Yep.
Right? She lives Sophie. Before Vice President Joel moved to Sophie, that road was very bad, deplorable.
Yeah. True.
She moved there.
So true.
She lobbied because of that people-centered kind of attribute.
Yeah.
She lobbied
and fix her rule.
Fix her rule.
Yeah.
Vice President Bwaka, excluding his 12 years as the vice president, spent 20 plus years in government, from agriculture minister to
you were in the army,
in the army.
Yes.
He was and O'Connor in doing Samuel Dotan,
Hell LPMC.
LPMC. All of those years, Baka, he lived rehab. That rehab place was one of the deadliest places to go in terms of mobility.
Yeah. Security-wise and all.
Security-wise. He could not build a single or even call a yellow machine to say, let's grade a Royer as the vice president. Without that authority. That man who is 77-year-old.
Oh, grandpa.
Who were you 77-year-old now?
The retirement Benny.
Then Baka, that retirement Beno, you're not thinking, it's not to mock at old age.
No.
But Baka,
It's a fact.
you're not thinking anymore in the right direction.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That means you retarded when it comes to thinking.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, this year he's going to be turning 78 by November 30th.
Can you imagine that?
So he's going to be turning 78.
78, imagine.
So by the elections next year, he will be 79. If God forbid he ever becomes president, he'll be 80 years in the first year. So just think about that.
Just think about it. Baka. So for that old man to sit down in Kakatan with a few group of people coming behind him, they say, ALP endorsing, Magibi chapter endorsing him. And for him to be making this kind of unrealistic, comment, it speak about the kind of leadership, the old man brings to the table.
But also he was talking about, that the government not investing in agriculture sector and what have you. I just wanted to talk about some of the different interventions. President Weah has been extremely concerned about the agricultural sector. As a matter of fact, there's been marginal increases in the budget for agriculture.
Yep.
But also the government has been cutting the different international organizations, whether it is the IDA,
FAO,
FAO and all the different organizations. But also when the president went on to France, when people were criticizing him, why are you going to visit why are you visiting France and what have you? There's been a different, benefits from those different visits. Firstly, it was for the youth sector. You know that the French Development Organization invested heavily in youth. Now they're working with the Ministry of Agriculture to develop the Liberian rice sector.
Yep.
So, in July, the Ministry of Agriculture announced that there were some interventions with, the French Development Organization to develop rice, because the government has been working on the value chain area, between the exploitation of these commodities. Because we have them. We have the arable land, we have the forest, but the problem has been the value chain, developing them, from the farm to the market, processing properly, ensuring that there are agro businesses and all of the different stuff. So it's not just the rice. There's been other intervention with the cocoa sector. We're going to be talking to Musa shortly, but the government gave cocoa seedlings to thousands of farmers in Lofa County, and they were working through, agricultural cooperatives, through farming cooperatives. Following the war, all of these different farming cooperatives, died out. I remember when I was much young.
That other aspect was, imagine the old man that was accused that the machines that were sent from
Libya. Over $1 million worth of machine
were sent to Libya. And all of a sudden, he started taking those machines there from Lofa to sell it in Guinea.
ADA. Yeah, man. Macintosh.
Yeah.
He started taking those machines from Liberia. That means that Macintosh, he started selling them to Guinea. Your vice president.
Oh, hey, old man Macintosh.
Oh, yeah, of course.
He was taking the machine.
Yeah, the Macintosh said, I remember. Yeah. There's but not Toga. There's another Macintosh that part of that.
Yeah, that Macintosh.
I forgot the person.
William
Macintosh.
He took those machines, and some of them stayed there. The people using it now for scrap
and racket.
Well, it wasn't good for Lofa.
So when you who believe in agriculture so much, and when that kind of opportunity comes, what do? You make maximum use of that opportunity. But instead of you making maximum use of the opportunity, in fact, when you were visiting Lofa, when you're ready to visit Lofa, you used to say, that means say, I'm just quoting Wendell. He said he said quotation to Windel.
Yeah.
I'm going Lofa today.
I need stipend.
Yeah, I need stipend.
I need stipend.
What?
So stipend finish all the money.
But you know, Baka, I like the way you inserted on the issue of the how you call it, agricultural ministry, different interventions.
Yeah.
I want to remind us, in 2018, President Weah attended the FOCAC summit. It's a summit of African countries under the China cooperatives. This Belt and Road, BRI. And during that summit, just before the COVID-19, the government of Liberia was working towards opening a mega rice production plant in Liberia. That was one of the arrangements between the government of Liberia and the government of China. President Weah, you see, has always saw the issue of rice as a national priority, something that needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
How many leaders, in past has ever had that thought? You talk about France. Similarly, if you went to Ministry of Agriculture right now, there are direct engagements with both small farmers, you understand, and mega farmers. Now, part of the reasons why even the president brought the agriculture minister on board, she used to work. She was a regional head for East Africa, okay, and she's been one of the forerunners of the issue of agriculture, specifically rice. So she has been working exceedingly hard to ensure that the different opportunities in the agriculture sector, from cassava, do you know that our cassava, how you got it, or process has increased, is more developed now in Liberia than before? It is. I'm a witness. I grew cassava in Bomi. I saw the interest. I saw how many persons were after that. Now you talk about Musa Kone. The cocoa seedling has been decentralized. Go to Cape Town. Now they've made a hub, a national hub in Cape Town that is intended to supply. Even Musa even promised me, who's sitting here, to go and see my own farm, advise me and provide me some cocoa seedlings. All of these interventions are geared towards paving the platform. You see,
and we should just remind the audience that because of some of the work that the Liberian government has been doing, because the Liberian government has been deliberate. Remember, the president hosted a cabinet meeting specifically focusing on agriculture. There was this farm somewhere in Grand Cape Town County. It's a government farm. It hadn't been developed since the 80s. The president mandated that farm be developed. Is several thousand, I think, hundreds of acres of land. It has been cleared now by the Ministry of Agriculture. It's been developed. There are other interventions that have been made. I know that there's been some tractors given to the Central Agriculture Research Institute, ACARI, where there are scientists and other people researching on the different agriculture projects. There are also grants being given to farmers, about 60,000 of them and what have you. All of these different measures have ensured that Liberia was included in the United States of America Feed the Future program. It is a program intended to end global hunger. Liberia was the only West African country picked by the United States of America. The only West African country we tend to forget. 3 months ago, I think 3 or 4 months ago, Liberia was the only West African country picked by the United States of America for its Feed the Future program. So it is intended to end global hunger. It's also going to be funding different farming cooperatives and initiatives across the country and what have you, because the American government gave billions of dollars last year, set aside billions of dollars, that farmers can exploit. Also, Liberia benefits from the U.S. AGOA program, that allow Liberia to put it on the American markets and what have you. So all of these interventions have been made. The former vice president doesn't see it.
No.
He said, the Liberian government by you. None of these things happened when he was former vice president. When he was vice president. None.
But it didn't happen when you're at LPMC.
It didn't happen when you're at
LPMC.
So these interventions have been made. The only thing here to say, the government not doing much about agriculture and blah, blah, blah.
All we can see, he's not doing much.
Yeah.
He's not doing much. But with everything, Broca, you and Daniel just outlined.
Yeah.
With everything that have been done,
Yeah.
to solve some of this situation in the sector.
Yeah.
How can you just come and say the government is not doing much when you're not giving any authority? But just sit there and say the government not doing much. How can the government not be doing much and investing so much into making sure that the problem Boakai and other people created in the past 12 years and LPMC managing director, when they created the problem that we are solving. Look, I always say, Boakai, the problem that Liberia, the problem that the country get, it can never be solved in 5 years.
No, not in 10 years.
It's not even in 10 years.
No.
What can be done in 5 years, 6, 7, 8 years is to set up a perfect roadmap
That others follow.
that ought to follow, which of course this government is doing. The president and the government,
Yep.
we are setting a perfect roadmap that other government will come and say, okay, we're not going back and start from square one anymore. And the president has also done a lot. Some of these things that the president has done is to bridge the gap that when this other president come, okay, when other projects that were there that started by previous government, you will neglect it and say, okay, I'm not get time for it. I will start something. But this president said, no, we're not going to live. We're going to consent government by paper is continuity. It should not only be on paper.
Yeah.
It should be
Indeed.
in these by our actions also.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Musa Kone. Musa is the deputy director of the Liberia Agriculture Product Regulatory Authority, right? Something.
Yeah.
Musa, please call your good name, your lacra.
Is the Liberian Agriculture Commodity
Right.
Regulatory
Authority. Yeah.
LACRA.
What's up? So, I know you've been so concerned about the whole cocoa sector. And by the way, we should commend you guys along with the Ministry of Agriculture. Now we've seen there's been a lot of different, focus on cocoa. To the extent now we have, the cocoa we've been processed and exported. We got, how do you call it? Cocoa now on the market in our stores.
Okay.
We just have to say thank God and thank to Dr. Weir, but I call him the chief scout. To start Musa Kone, I would say a Musa Kone, to where I'm placed, you have to be a genius to do that. So for me, I always say thank you, Mr. President. I'm very, very much grateful to you. And my generation remain forever grateful. You are giving me the career, maybe you don't even know, Mr. President. Look, we have made significant impact in the cocoa sector more than any other government in the history of Liberia with facts. Now they cheap talk where somebody say they can take 90 days to pay all of the roads in Liberia. My son was just telling me that. Who said that? And I said, maybe if I be on a very serious note. So, Wakai, if you just want to look at the numbers of farms when President Weir took over in Liberia from 2018 to current, we have had more cocoa farms than any other time of our existence. Liberia now is recognized as one of the best cocoa producing country, and Liberia also have a brand of coffee that we'll talk about, and it's styled Liberica coffee. Go and check. It is among the best coffee in the world, and that brand is a unique brand only to Liberia in the world. You can also go and verify. Some of those people who left for nothing argument were speaking with facts and authority. So I want to just say to you that we are doing well. As a matter of fact, for more than 20 years, we will be announcing for the first time the price of coffee in Liberia. And if you look back, coffee was neglected because the price of coffee on the international market dropped to as far as $45 per kg, per kilo, per ton, which is 45 cents per kg. Today, we're not going to call the price yet because we have an official program, but today, coffee have appreciated very well, and Liberia is one of the countries that people will start trooping in because of the quality of our coffee. That ceremony will be anytime soon next week. We will also be launching the cocoa season. It's an annual thing that we do that is best practice everywhere in the world. Even though we are a little bit behind because the cocoa season actually starts October 1st, but we're going to do our own anytime next week. And we also going to be having a study tour. We were there in August. The 3rd of August, we were in Cote d'Ivoire. And 8 of our staff, including myself, will be having a study tour again in Africa Coast. And we're also going to be taking along with us one exporters, because we going to be having, we're going to be going to packaging companies. We're going to be going to export companies. We're going to be having a steady tour of the Ivorian Cocoa Research Center. And then we also have a workshop in quality control and grading. And we also are in the stage now, final stage of coming up with the first oil policy in Liberia that have never happened in history, and this is happening under the leadership of Dr. Weah. We are at the final stage of concluding the policy that will regulate or guard the oil palm sector in Liberia. So because of that, we are also having a very big meeting with oil palm plantation owners in Africa, look at some of the laws they have, and we can also add to some of them, and come and just finalize our document. Then we will move to have a workshop, again, a workshop with the Ivorians, so that we can also see some of the equipment, because if you are doing oil grading and testing, you need certain equipment. That study tour are going to lead us to going to see some of the equipment they are using, how they use it. We'll also have some training in that. And lastly, we will also be having this migrant, we've been having issue with Burkina bees coming to Liberia, mostly in the cocoa sector. So we have had a partnership with some Ivorian companies that will be mapping, the southeast to see how many Burkina bees, or you want to call it Equa citizens, are in Liberia and what they are doing in the agricultural sector. We're going to be having that kind of finalization. In fact, we have already finalized agreement with Adish Cocoa that will be doing the consultancy for us. They will be coming here to see farm size, farm location is very important, because if we have farm size, for example, let's say we have 500 cocoa trees on a farm, that would be like an acre. And once you have an acre of land, it's very easy as a technician like me to say, okay, since you have 500 cocoa trees, it means you are occupying 1 acre, and then it means you are producing 1,000 kg of cocoa or dry cocoa beans. And we can sit down like that and say at the end of the year, based on the number of farms that we have in Liberia and the farm sizes, we can produce this number of cocoa, which is very easy for us. Then the farm location is very important. Farm location is important because we're going to be talking about traceability. Traceability would be, for example, you say Bwake Fofana Farm is in Kwani Boni District, Tusu Town.
Oh, but why are you calling all my places there?
He go there.
Yeah, I know.
Don't tell you I better Tusu. I better Tusu.
Okay,
Kwani Boni and Tusu, I better.
Exactly, and it's going to be very scientific. So once that cocoa leaves on the shores of Liberia, going to any part of Europe, it will be labeled. It will say, produced from Liberia, Lofa County, Kwani Boni District, Tusu Town. So that's traceability. That's how it's done all over the world. So that project is about to start as soon as we come back. So it's a very big thing, but I just want to say to everybody, to get involved in the agro business. It's a very big business. It's something good for us to do. We're going to be visiting, for example, cooperatives, and we have a lot of cooperatives in Liberia that are producing eatable material from out of cocoa and coffee. So we're going to see what they are doing. That's the reason why we are taking along. I wish we have the huge allotment. We could take more exporters along with us, but we selected one exporter that will be going to see how these things are done. We're also going to carry one member of the cooperative who also going to see how cooperative operate in Africa. And when you come back in Liberia, we can replicate that to make sure that we strengthen our regulation, our production, and everything. But I just want to say, Bwakai, I thought you wanted to talk.
No, Daniel has a question for you.
Yeah, Musa.
Okay, Daniel,
Good morning.
Morning, Daniel.
So Musa, kindly tell us, what is the current the quality grade of Liberian cocoa as compared to years back before Lacra took charge?
So when we took over Liberia, and this is facts, I got on my computer, and you can ask all of the exporters here. Sheikh Toure is here, Mr. Jean Cooper is here, Mr. Clemency Yu is an exporter, Zidane is here. Ask them. The cocoa quality in Liberia, we made it at subgrade. Liberia was exporting subgrade, and Liberia was exporting just 1,760 metric tons. That is 2018 records. As we speak, we took that from that point up to 10,000 metric tons, and not only 10,000 metric tons, but quality. Liberia now is computing highly between grade 1 and grade 2. From my knowledge, I always told people that we have grade 1 cocoa. So Liberia is doing extremely well. Where we have problem is the quantity. Our quantity is very low, because if we take into consideration 10,000 metric tons of cocoa that's being exported, that is just 0.2% of the world total cocoa. We need to strengthen that. We need to increase our
Okay, Musa, we gotta go. Thank you so much. That's the voice of the Deputy Director of LACRA, Musa Kone. We will get back to Kalasco to talk to us about, the presidency. A lot of people like to hear about activities around the presidency when Kalasco comes in. And we will definitely get to that. Let's open the lines briefly. You can call us on the following numbers: 080-514-096, that's 080-514-096, or 086-561-537, that's 086-561-537. We have our first caller. Let's talk to this caller. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name and where are you calling from?
My name is William B. Jabba. I'm calling from Sino.
William Jabba, are you related to Armstrong Jabba?
No, not really. I think Armstrong from Nima. Jabba spelled different.
Okay, all right. Because Armstrong has one of the largest rice farms. We understand.
We really need to buttress him more.
Okay.
My brother, thanks to the panel on the show this morning.
Okay.
We will continue to enlighten our people in this country that we don't need to worry anymore, because God has given us the roadmap to Ambassador Weah. So all those things you have said is just a fact. I always tell people Ambassador Weah came into this job with truthfulness. That is why we should take seriously. We've been having leaders in this country that came to the job with lies, deception, and waste hunting people. And today we got a president that keeps his focus. He don't care about hunting people. He don't care about, but what he cares about is changing the trajectory of this great country and getting Liberia back on its feet. So I don't got much to talk, but just to say thanks and let the warning go to all Liberians. Now we already have a president. Let us keep our mind on him and make Liberia great again. Thank you.
Thank you. You too can place your calls to those numbers: 080-514-096. Good morning.
Good morning, Parker.
Your name and where you calling from?
Thank you so much. Let me say good morning to Kalasco and good morning to Daniel. My name is Christian Yantin, and I joined the conversation from the Office of the Intellectual Alliance of Liberia along the Japan Freeway.
Yeah, Christian, go ahead.
Well, I listened to all of the talking points, but I want to say this about Wakai. I listened to his interview on 2FM. Then I tend to wonder, imagine that, yes, Waka has lived in perpetual defeat, and in fact, he is a pathological liar, because he said one thing before. He said when he was going to school, he needed to pay his school fee. Unfortunately, he never had money, so he went to a hunter and took goat from there. And that goat, what he did, because the goat was slim, so he had to give the goat salt water so the goat can get
He said it.
Really?
Oh, he said it, yeah.
You said it?
He said it. He came from Lofa with good on the mat. Yeah.
And then the second thing is, Waka was interviewed and he told Liberian that he survived on loan, knowing the fact that as president he controlled a budget more than $2 million. And then Waka again went to America to Liberia that there were medical supply on the way coming to Liberia.
And medical supply can reach.
The ship still coming.
Medical supply can reach.
No, listen. He didn't just say the medical supply coming. He posted. There was a picture of him in the medical supply place. Yeah. And we didn't see the supply.
The ship is stuck in Antarctica.
Till now, then we are planning a protest for our supply, because he cannot then he swap our supply to different thing. We know that. So the public has lived in perpetual defeat. Can you imagine telling Liberian that you will connect all of the road, no car will get stuck in more in 30 days?
In 100 days.
In 100 days, I mean, they tend to wonder that Waka doesn't understand nothing about governance because before you even talk about connecting road, there should be a budgetary process, and the budget run for a year. You can tell me that the budget in 100 days, you don't know how many more. 100 days, 3 months, 10 days. You're talking about in 3 months, 10 days to connect on the roads. Then you are being very much insincere and not even understanding governance. Because if you will understand governance,
Okay.
fundamentally realize.
Christian, thank you.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you. Let's talk to this other caller. Good morning.
Thank you. Let me appreciate you for this platform.
Okay.
My name is Aman Coach Van Debe, and I joined the conversation from division number 15.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, the former vice president, like Christian indicated, has lived in maximum deception. Then he thinks that the people of this country are so gullible. I mean, he will acquire political dividends at the expense of the people. I mean, we're in a war with the experience that he claims to have had in serving in governance to tell us that in 90 days you will, pay for all of the roads, all of the major roads in our country. That is maximum deception, and it will not resonate with our people because our people are doing a plan. The former vice president, we have thought that he was going to be one of those persons that will be providing some, direction for young people, but instead you have embarrassed yourself and also embarrassed some of his supporters. In fact, some of them, they have been telling us inconvenience that this position of the former vice president is embarrassing to an extent wherein they don't have the face, conspicuous, and intellectual prowess to defend him because it is defenseless.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you. Let's talk to more callers. 080514096. Good morning.
Good morning, dear.
Yeah, your name and where you calling from?
I'm Dorothy. I'm living Ralphie Highway.
Ma'am Dorothy, how Ralphie Highway, by the way?
Yes, somewhere around here.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, good morning for your lecture. I'm a secret listener, but today I'm interested to say something against this red issue.
Okay, talk.
One thing I appreciate the government, but if you try to be strong, you don't spoon feed them.
Mhm.
The Liberian government made the Liberian people to insult the zero because they make us lazy. Those days we say nobody is a basket winner for Liberia. If we send it back on red to Lopa, sending it to Green Gear, sending it to Chino, and every other place in Nima, what were they saying right now? They are the ones who are supposed to steal with the rights. So, Nigeria, what they have, they're the ones supposed to buy rights. Those people, let them lead them. Let them make their price. You able to buy it, able to go make fun. So, Nigeria, the agriculture ministry, she on you. The people that are in the parliament, she on you for the agricultural pay. These people are supposed to have farm. So we hit on them. Those that are not able to work, then we can go to their farm.
Okay.
But every day, president, I'm tired with it. So I beg you,
Okay.
let them try and lead it and business people, let them say whatever we don't say. Who are able to make farm with you, Kasawali.
Okay, thank you. That's an ordinary person expressing himself. Let's take more callers. Good morning.
Good morning, Boga. How you doing?
I'm good. Your name, where you calling from?
Well, Boga, this is Aaron Zane from the rehab bill.
Aaron, go ahead.
Boga, you know the other day I told you the only message we give in the opposition is let's make president. We are a one-time president.
Yeah, that only message.
Yeah, then now they are Boga another one off. We're going to develop all the major road, build major road in 1 year time.
No, you say 1 year. They say 3.5 months.
3.5 months.
3 months, 10 days.
Yeah, 3 months, 10 days.
3 months, 10 days. But let me refer your mind to a Ryan horse. Boga, we have a vice president who pack car in for a house. In month for 12 years. why he couldn't pave around it? Even when he saw how the crop,
Yeah.
we had to transform that entire
No stress.
right?
Imagine, Bwakai, let's be honest, my man.
That's true.
Let's be honest.
No, but Kalasco, you need to tell us about that. You need to tell us about that role around there.
Okay. For 12 years.
He said,
Yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah.
I remember that he was on the T-Max show.
Yeah.
And when T-Max asked, he said, "Well, the IMF has graded the government properly as far as macroeconomic, stability is concerned." And he said a business group. Yeah, and they can do business. Can you imagine? It shows how clueless.
Yeah, of course.
Even though you say he was vice president for 12 years, apparently that's only what's happening.
No.
Because not to know who the IMF is and what they do,
But the mentor he was a
and say it's
backer.
a business organization.
But the mentor he was a park racing car. How can a car be parked, know what's going on the road?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay, let's go.
And Bwakai, to be honest, I'm glad that people are following these things.
Yeah.
Imagine that caller, somebody who called,
Yeah.
an ordinary citizen,
Yep.
that just called and reminding us
Yeah.
about Bwakai's statement about the IMF, being
the
a business organization.
He did say, I listened to that.
Yes.
That
That callers, that ordinary people calling, and you listen to the callers.
Yeah.
They're expressing their view about Bwakai's statement
Yeah.
towards some of the things he's been saying over the past years. And the rehab he's talking about, let's take the caller.
Hello.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Your name, where you calling from?
My name is Steven Gamone.
Steven, go ahead. We'll take one more call after Steven. Yeah, go ahead, Steven.
You know, I'm going around this world. What we like doing in this thing now is to face it to make our fun.
Yeah.
Because you see what happened, you see those countries are thinking we from you see now they are suffering. And now you see and I'm trying to plan their we now. So if we like doing we face it to make our own fun in that prayer, we now have no problem with any other country because it is going around the whole world. We could make our own fun, do what we eat, do what we eat enough. Then we'll be self-sufficient and be independent on the women.
Okay. Thank you. Let's talk to one more caller, and then we can get back to Kalasco. Good morning.
Good morning, young people. Good morning, how you do?
I'm doing well. Your name, where you calling from?
This is old man Matthew. I'm calling you from District 1 Bone County.
Oh man, go ahead, Matthew. Matthew, go ahead.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for the show. Thank you, Ali. You giving us information about our country. So
Okay.
we just applaud you for that. Pray that you continue so that we'll know the information about government.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, old man Bwakai, the former VP, they just begin association in this country. You can't just be, say, president, you want to be president. Now we're praying for food. I'm actually all up for us in the country. And it's not coming in, all of people, I'm actually not all of them. It's a plan, and I'm not doing that. Anyone be president?
They even got fancy.
So the money making association, we know you're going back there for the next time. Thank you.
Okay, we'll put a hold to the call. But you're making a point, Kalasco.
Yeah, and Bwakai, interestingly, before we make the point, I think ELBC is the place to come.
Really?
I'm
But
honest.
do you know that some of the opposition leaders are requesting now, they're demanding that they're demanding that they need to come on?
But to be honest, Bwakai, because
Come on.
you listen to the divergence of calls
Oh yeah, from all over the country.
from all over the country.
Yeah.
All over the country. And thanks to the ELBC management
Yeah.
that have maintained that status and even improved
Yeah.
tremendously upon what they met.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
No, they're doing well.
They are really, really doing well. Thanks to them. But Bwakai, overall, Bwakai's situation is pathetic. It's pathetic because I think old age is really, really a problem.
I know.
We will all get old, and it's
everybody's
it's
going to be
not
facing that situation at some
it's
point.
not,
Yeah.
it's not
We're not intending to mock.
to mock the situation.
As a matter of fact, I usually state down in this program, when we come here, some of the times, if you're a politician, we're definitely going to call out some of your issues, but we don't intend to exploit a personal situation, because we know, we got to be
Exactly.
respectful.
We got to be respectful.
Yeah, so we're being
You know,
respectful.
We're not like them where
yeah.
we get. Well, for us, we are very respectful because
Yeah.
I know at the end of the day, we will all get old. But when we get old, in that situation, we put ourselves in a position where we'll go and sit down with our grandchildren, sit down with the children, then they come here around us, we play with them. But when you stay forcing it, it's not him. But the guys that were there 12 years ago, some of these people that were there 12 years ago, that enjoy luxury, that were making 10, 15, 20,000 out of it, they're not there anymore. They're forcing the old man, forcing him to make statement that is not a true representation of his age.
They'll make it how much?
More than 10, 15.
And I think it's important because ministers under President Sally were making about close to $7,800.
Yes.
So ministers under President Weah, far less. And then Martin Colley had the audacity yesterday to lie that a minister, our minister specifically, was making something close to 5,000,
which is 900
and what have you. So, when it shows the minister, I wish I'm making the money.
I'm telling you.
Because although they are new administration, nobody's making that amount of money for minister. Although their administration are making 7,800.
But even aside from that 7,000, there were other allowances. There were other allowances that took that money up to 10,000.
$10,000.
Yeah.
So they